So Paul Nealon from Irish Football Fan TV, you're very welcome to the Bulletproof Dad podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm very good. Thank you very much for having me. Delighted to be here.
I'm delighted to get you in. The reason I wanted to get you in is I've been following your page a while and it's blown me away, just the growth you've had over the last while, the following you have and the quality of work that you do. And I was keen to chat to you just to kind of find out a bit like what's behind all this. Where has this come from? Is this a guy who's a social media expert who's decided to go after football, or is this just someone with a genuine football passion who has wanted to create a lifestyle and a business around this? So can you tell me a little bit more about yourself and where this has all come from? If you start maybe with the early years.
Well, the early years, I suppose I kind of took a lot of inspiration. I would follow an Everton fan channel called Toffee TV. And I was living in Canada from 2015 to 17. And I used to find that just brilliant for information because Sky Sports and stuff like that would mainly kind of focus on the bigger teams, United, City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, so on. And no one really kind of focused kind of on Everton. So they were just kind of the experts, and they would have like a show called The Final Word where they'd go into detail on everything. And if you missed the game, because you'd be getting up at like 7 or 8 in the morning
silly
on a Saturday.
There,
just because of time difference. And it was just hard to, I suppose, keep up to date with everything and maybe watch the game, but they give just a brilliant analysis, and then they'd have stuff all through the week. They'd have, match previews and stuff like that. So again, if you're missing out on anything, they'd keep you up to date with it. And I just thought it was brilliant. I just thought everything that they did was brilliant about it. So I was coming home in 2017 in March, and I was coming back that weekend, and I went over for a West Brom game. I was actually due to surprise my mum. She was going to that game, and I was actually due to surprise her by going to the game and surprise her.
She a big Everton fan as well?
She kind of took it on through my dad. I'll come to that at a later stage. But she was basically gone over with friends or whatever. But whatever way it happened, when I came home, I had to just go to the house because I had to go in and get some stuff. So she wasn't expecting me home anyway. So I stayed around then till the Monday, because they usually do the shows on the Monday. So I was there from Friday, I think, till Monday. And I went into the studio and remember just kind of getting a feel for it or whatever. I've never been in a kind of studio like that before, and the way they had set it up and everything like that. And I was a bit kind of mad because I was going in and I've seen these fellas on YouTube and on a TV screen.
Starstruck, were you?
Yeah, a little bit. And I came in. They were nicest lads ever, and they still kind of help me to this day. I still get a voice off them and everything like that. They're just really good guys. And they brought me in. I remember as soon as the lights came on and they did a clap, and all of a sudden we were in the show, and I was like, they came to me and asked me a question. I remember just freezing and just been like, oh, maybe I asked a question here. And I thought, I was thinking to myself, I'm going to be deadly on this show. I know my stuff and whatever. Not as easy as it looks.
Camera changes.
No, definitely. And then...
Had you just gone in? Were you a fan being interviewed? What was the premise for you being there?
I was just talking about the game. So the West Brom game we'd been at, we were just going in to dissect the game, basically. And I just asked them, could I come on? Because I was a Patreon member. So they let their members come on.
Oh, cool,
so, yeah. And then I remember I was getting a train home to get back to my hotel or something. Or I can't remember. Either way, one of the guys dropped me all the way back into town from where their studio is, which would have been near Liverpool Airport. So it was a good 20-minute spin. And he dropped me back out, and I was saying to him, I'd love to live over here. He goes, why don't you? And I just said, Dublin's home to me. I've just been traveling away. He goes, you could always move over. And I just kind of like, I can't move over. But then I remember being in Thailand in 2016 for the Euros, and I remember just kind of so many Irish there, and we'd be out at again mad o'clock in the night watching the games, and we were all hammered watching the games, but such a great buzz and everyone's singing and everything like that. And I think anywhere you go in the world and you meet Irish people, they're all like that, So I remember just kind of thinking that buzz was amazing. And then I remember coming back, and I kind of, at the time, I wasn't really keeping up to date with League of Ireland. I didn't really feel like there was anything in terms of Irish football at the time when I was away. And I was like, there's nothing really here. That kind of, when you're away, like I'd love to start up something and kind of keep people informed, as well as obviously the people over here, and maybe it was kind of the rise of AFTV, Arsenal Fan TV, and this and that, interviewing fans and stuff like that. So I remember I went to my dad's friend, and I was kind of just trying to come up with a logo, and he helped me create a logo, and we were down by Tallaght Stadium at the time because he worked around there. And then we just started going to League of Ireland games. I was a massive Shells fan as a kid. My dad used to bring me to all the games. We were season ticket holders, so me and my brother, my cousin, my uncle, and then all of our friends would go as well.
Good, yeah.
So sometimes if my brother didn't go, my mate would go in his place under his season ticket or whatever. So like a lot of my friends, even though we're from Ballantyre area.
How did that happen? Yeah, how did you become like
my granddad?
Yeah.
So my granddad was from Pearse Street, and he was a massive Shells fan.
Okay.
He actually played under 21. He was an under 21 Irish international, and he played for a number of League of Ireland clubs as well.
Very good, yeah.
Yeah, but he had.
That's when Shells were Rings End, was it, back in the day? Yeah.
Before
But
then,
over.
But during that period, Shells were unbelievable.
Yeah.
When I was a kid.
Yeah. I had Owen Hear you sat in that seat in front of you, and like again, my memories. My nana lived on Grace Park Road, just up the road from Talca Parks. Used to go to a lot of games. You park there and go down, and like that. Yeah, there was some serious players there back in the day. They had an unbelievable squad for especially for League of Ireland standards at the time. It was insane.
I was actually lucky because in transition year, I actually did a work experience, and it was the last time after winning the league, the Premier Division, and then that's obviously when things kind of went tits up, as you would say. But Ollie Byrne was there, and he had me in. And I remember it was like my first day on the job. I was cleaning up the bar after.
You were working with him, were you? Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was just kind of. I'd see little bits from him. Very nice guy.
Yeah.
Actually gave me, I think, 50 quid at the end of the work experience.
Very good,
and then he goes, go into the shop there, and basically, if you want anything, you can
Take it,
have
yeah.
it. Well,
That's
it
it.
wasn't take it. John, I can't remember his surname. It escapes me, but he was working the shop, and he would give me like a scarf and a hat. But as well as that, Mick Neville was there as well. I remember he brought me to like an Ireland underage game, and then he actually brought me into the kit room, and he gave me like all of the lads' jerseys from that season, and remember taking home Jason Burns' shirt, Stuart Burns' shirt, to get Glenn Crow's as well. Owen Heary was my actual favourite player at the time, so I took his shirt. So I was then wearing all that gear to train, and I was giving one to my brother and one to my cousin.
Yeah.
So everyone was kind of, won in that scenario. So I was fortunate enough to kind of work closely for a week with Ollie, but I always found he was a nice guy, and everyone around the club was really nice. But kind of around the time when I started kind of hitting teenage years, 15, 16, start going out more on a Friday. So my dad would still go to the games, but he was kind of going on his own. Then he kind of stopped going as much, and I would play my own football on a Sunday. So I was kind of jeopardising my Friday and Saturday nights going, say, to League of Ireland games or whatever at that time. And then obviously when I come back to from Canada, then I was like, I'm going to get back into going to games, and if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to, start bringing a bit of interest to the League of Ireland and stuff like that. But I remember we were kind of doing a couple of videos. I had a friend of mine, Glenn, he was living locally, and he was like, oh, I'd love to kind of get involved or whatever. So I remember we went over to the local football club in Dundrum, and we did a couple of videos, and I remember couldn't even speak, literally trying to do the first video, being like introduction to what it is.
What were you trying to do? Were you trying to interview players? Or were you
just literally just chatting. So two of us side by side, and we were chatting to a camera going, hi, I'm Paul Nealon, and this is Glenn O'Brien. And we kept messing up. I think we must have done about 10 takes. Eventually we did it. Then we started kind of getting fans in, and we started kind of doing like League of Ireland previews, this, that and the other.
That's where you started first of all, was the League of Ireland. That's where you focused on to begin with mostly? Or?
Because we would have like the international team. So I think we played Mexico and a couple of other teams and stuff like that. But basically the production wasn't very good. It was a camera, and it was a Zoom mic that was just kind of sitting in between us. And we had a couple of Premier League jerseys behind us and all, just to kind of give it.
You had a little studio set up, like, had you?
Yeah, it was a table, a couple of jerseys in the newspapers.
Where were you based? Was it
just Dundrum Football Club? A guy, Shane O'Kelly.
Oh, sorry, that's who was in the club. Sorry.
Yeah. So a guy called Shane O'Kelly, who actually I'd be very good friends with now. Really, really good, top man. He allowed us to, because I went to him. I remember having to call over to his house, and I said, "Look, I have this idea. Is there any chance we could film out of here? If it's not too much of a hassle for you?" And he was like, yeah, no problem or whatever. And he's kind of watched the whole journey grow. He's been amazing in terms of if ever I need anything. He became a good friend of mine as well at the same time. I got to know his whole family very well. His young fella's a huge Irish football fan. His young fella actually went viral. He has autism, and I remember after one of the games, Martin O'Neill, we drew 0-0 with Northern Ireland,
right?
And I remember he gave an interview with me after the game, but apparently he was he was having kind of, not, I wouldn't say a fit, but like he was having a moment or an episode. And apparently his mom was telling me that after he did the interview with me, he completely switched off and he was fine after that. But his interview, because he was so well spoken for a young, he was only 13 or 14 at the time, and he was like saying how bad it was, you know, we were boring, horrendous. I remember it went into the paper, it was on the radio, went completely viral. And I just thought it was funny because Shane was the first guy who gave us a chance to do anything, and then his son was doing going viral. So I just thought that was a cool moment. And it's his young lad Tiernan now, he actually he runs like a horse racing Instagram page, and he interviews all the jockeys.
So
and stuff.
Similar ethos to what you're doing, but in the horse racing scene.
In a sense, yeah. But he's really good at it. So I was delighted to kind of see him kind of go on. And he's about
obviously
18.
You've had an influence there, and some part of that, like as well. You've obviously had an influence there in some degree if you've seen what you're doing.
Maybe, yeah. So we were doing basic videos in there, and that kind of started then I'm not going to say abuse, but people were just saying, "Oh, that's terrible," and I would never watch that type of stuff. So,
what was it like? What was it? Were people having a go at you because of the production quality? Because I'm surely there's some you can probably remember in the early stages, some comments or some.
They just said get that. They just said it was the worst thing that they've ever seen, and they'd never watch it.
Good constructive feedback there. A lot you can do with that.
In a sense, as probably as angry as it got me at the time, is I probably needed to be told that, so I could improve.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I needed that chip on my shoulder to say, right, well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to make a success of this. And that really drove me on.
Was that the natural reaction, or was there an element of, what am I doing this for? I'm getting loads of criticism. I'm not really getting anything for this. Or
I tell you what, I think living in Canada changed my mindset. Because I don't think I would have started this if I was living in Ireland. Because I lived in Canada where if you did something that was outside the norm, you get credit for it.
Yeah.
If you do something in Ireland and it said, he's an idiot, he's a weirdo, that's shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the mindset was different because I came straight from Canada. So I think that was a big thing that kind of went, I'm going to do this. And as I said, I was watching the lads do it with Toffee TV. There was nothing like it in Ireland. Nothing came close to it. And at the same time, I wasn't really coming at this in a journalistic type of way. It kind of fell into that as time went on. But my hope was to try and get players on in the long term, and they would enjoy coming on, have the crack, and it wasn't very serious. You know, we wanted to show the human side of football.
Perspective. So,
yeah. So it wasn't like, and it's so hard to get that trust off players, like so hard. But I'm sure we'll come to that. But it was it was that kind of the start of that kind of drove me, right. I have to get better at this, one. And two, I have to, you know, the quality does have to improve if it's going to be taken seriously as well. But I was constantly in touch with the lads off Toffee TV going, how do you do this? And I'm looking at them and they're 2, 3, 4 years down the line of what they do.
I think that's a huge point to make. Like, you're not just a delusional fan who has a dream. You're watching someone else doing it who's a couple of years ahead of you, and you know what's possible. And again, you're linking in with them and asking them for feedback and asking for them for advice. Like, I think you need to be, as you said, self-aware that, I'm getting criticism. Okay, this needs to be improved. You're not too sensitive with the harsh feedback you're getting. Like, as you said, sometimes it's the worst thing they've ever seen. Like, again, I
did at the time. I remember just, because they were local people who I didn't actually like, but it was just, I'm going to show you. Yeah. Like, you're going to regret what you said there.
Yeah. Brilliant. So that was the fuel. Yeah.
That's the right word. Yeah.
And then, but I think then as well, you have that humbleness to be able to ask for help and to be able to go to someone who's doing it and go, look, can you show me this? Can you help me with this? How do you do this? And I think that's huge. I think that's something I've learned over the years with running business as well and trying to grow what I'm doing. There's people out there that are further along the journey than you. Find them, identify them, and ask them for help. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I think that's exactly what you've done there, which is class. So having now moved on a couple of years, you've got over that initial stage of being the worst, in inverted commas, the worst thing that people have ever seen, and you're getting the feedback from the Everton lads.
Probably still am to some people.
Right. Listen, you're never going to please everybody. And to be honest, if you're doing stuff right, you should be getting some level of criticism. You know, that's a sign you're doing stuff right. I had Rory Stories in that chair a while back, and he mentioned the same thing. Like, he gets a lot of it. And you're probably similar to him in a lot of ways. You're technically doing something that probably a lot of people have thought about in the past and could technically, I could do that. But no one ever, they didn't bother their arse to get up and do it. Whereas you have, and you've gone after it. And possibly your success reminds those people that, you know, it maybe puts a mirror on them that they don't like seeing sometimes. So that's probably something you can't control. That's their business, not yours. But having moved on a few years from that, like, what's actually, like, how did you start to improve? What are the changes you made to start kind of building this following that you have now?
Well, equipment number one.
Yeah.
I remember when Mick McCarthy got appointed manager.
For the second time, yeah.
The second time, sorry, yeah. But I remember going to that press conference.
Was that 2018, 2019, something like that, was it?
2018, I think.
Okay.
Or maybe, 2018, I think. Or it might have been November 2017. I can't remember. It was in around November, though. I think it might have been November 2018. So Martin O'Neill was in charge before that. Didn't really get much access. And actually, funny, sorry, just this will tie into this, but John Delaney, I know everybody hates him, and I'm not a huge fan of him, but what I will say is that he came into Dundrum, had him down in the clubhouse,
Yeah.
and I got talking to him, and he actually kind of arranged for me to kind of get in media-wise, to get a media pass and stuff like that. So
Which would have been massive for you at the time, yeah.
Yeah, well, I got my kind of first taste for it. Sorry, actually, was United played. Was it Sampdoria or something in the Aviva?
I remember that.
Mourinho was in charge,
Yeah.
and Matic had just signed.
Yeah.
And Klopp, maybe Liverpool played Sampdoria, maybe it was, and I think Man United, Napoli, or something like that. Anyway, but United and Liverpool were both over, and I remember I got access to those games, and because a guy from the Mirror got in touch with me and said, "Oh, you should try go about doing this through media accreditation."
Okay.
So I was like, "All right, okay." So I applied for it and I got it, and I was actually surprised I got it. But then after that or whatever, I remember getting into the mix zone. I didn't know myself. There's Matic there, and you're kind of getting videos of Matic talking and stuff like that. And then it's kind of like,
how does that look like if you someone else there with a camera and you're there with a microphone?
No, just me.
Right.
No, just me. But then off the back of that, I remember we were in Dundrum and John Delaney came in. I was talking away I was actually more talking to his kind of security guard at the time, Bobby, I think his name was. And I was asking him, I was like, "Oh, do you think we could get something maybe with a player, blah, blah, blah." And then I sent him an email, and then he put down for me to kind of be put on a media list. So then I started getting stuff on through the media, and I was getting into games, and I was working at the games and stuff like that. Then Mick McCarthy came in, just to go back to your point, so the equipment. I was literally standing there with a phone in one hand, shaking about the interview. Mick McCarthy, don't forget, when I was growing up watching football, Mick McCarthy was the first manager.
Yeah.
Not Jack Charlton.
Yeah. I'm similar age bracket to you. What age are you?
33.
Yeah, I'm 35. So again, like my early proper memories are with Mick McCarthy.
So Mick was a hero of mine as well, and he's a very intimidating man as well. Especially if you're kind of going in. So I'm there with that. I have a microphone attached to the phone, so I'm kind of standing there shaking, trying to interview him and doing that. And I remember people like, "Oh, your camera's very shaky. Oh, you're this, you're that." It's like, all right, okay. So I need to prove again. So a friend of mine actually gave me a loan of his camera. Luke Doherty was his name. He's actually passed away since. Really nice guy. But he used to give me a loan of the camera, and then he'd be like, "Oh yeah, you can use it, take it, whatever you want." So I used to bring that with me, and I'd get the press conferences and stuff like that out in Abbottstown. All the stuff started to improve. We were doing fan interviews and stuff like that. And we were starting to kind of get a bit of traction, and it was then kind of still kind of getting abuse going, "Oh, you know, I remember getting stuff saying, like, people on forums and stuff like that, people be sending me stuff. I said to them, just stop sending me stuff.
Yeah, don't say it, yeah.
I don't care. Like, they're not saying anything that's helpful. All they're saying, "Oh, he's no charisma. He's just crappy stuff like that." Like, it doesn't even, it's not constructive criticism. It's just criticism. Yeah. It's just, I don't like him. He's an idiot. He's full of himself. He's this, he's that. These are people that don't know me. And then you get people saying, "Oh, you should have seen, I saw that fella at the match and you should have seen what he said to this young fella." And I was like, I wouldn't speak to anybody at the game, so I don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Just trying to make up lies and stuff like that. It's just strange. But
that's odd, yeah.
I was going to all the games and I'm starting to kind of get to know a lot of the players and stuff like that. And then I just remember I started reaching out to people. I remember I got Shane Supple on, and then actually a couple of guys who you've had sitting in here, like Owen Heary and Dinny Corcoran. I used to travel into town and I would do like an interview with them, or I had a set up as well. So they would come to me sometimes, which Shane did and Owen did. Dermot Keeley did as well, who actually was my old maths teacher, which is funny.
Right, that's gas, yeah.
Yeah, in the Leaving Cert. So he wasn't there that much because he was too busy trying to get Shell's players, sign players. So sorry, just take a quick drink of that.
Take your time.
So I was getting all these people on, and then it just kind of started to to grow legs then, and then I started getting other people on, and then I remember the kind of moment where things started kind of shifting in a better sense was Darren Randolph had his academy, so Rand's Academy, and the people that were running that, I remember I just contacted them. I remember seeing an ad for it or something like that, and I was like, "Hey, how's it going? Blah blah blah. We have a decent following. We'd love to come down and maybe do something with Darren, or if we could, and maybe promote your academy at the same time." So they were like, "Yeah, great, come down." Blah blah blah. So he came down, and I met Darren. I remember being a bit starstruck at the time, but he's so cool. Like, he's the coolest man ever.
He's from Wicklow, is he?
Bray.
Bray,
Yeah, but you can call it Wicklow.
It depends what side of Bray you're on, whether you're Dublin or Wicklow.
But he was just so cool, down to earth or whatever. And actually, we did the interview, and there was like a what's it called, air conditioning unit or something off in the background, and I didn't realize at the time. And we did the interview, it was a really good interview, and everything went well. And then I went back and listened to it, and the air conditioning thing just kind of ruined it a little bit. But remember we were going out on a story and stuff like that, and then off the back of that, then we started kind of getting access to other players. And I remember the same people were doing an academy for Wes Houlihan.
Yeah.
And Wes doesn't do any videos at all. So
it's only just social media or anything.
He does, but he's a private kind of. He likes to kind of keep things private. So I had Wes on, and like nobody, you very rarely see Wes on a video.
Yeah.
And so I did a video for him, and it was kind of promoting his academy and then talking about his memories and stuff like that. And kind of got their trust, him and then Darren as well. So then when COVID hit, I remember Darren came on, we did like a Zoom call, and again the audio and stuff like that was terrible for the first couple, and then I eventually kind of fixed it up. But we were starting to get players following us on COVID and stuff like that. So Darren Randolph led to John Egan, to Shane Duffy, to Aaron Connolly after he'd scored the goals against Spurs. And then you had Conor Howrahan, Jason Malumbi, loads of them came
These
on.
guys were all jumping on a Zoom with you to do an interview, was it?
During COVID. They had nothing, all I'm saying is they had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Because it was COVID and they weren't allowed to train or anything. But no, they were all brilliant with their time.
Yeah, but that's a good sign of a pivot by you as well, though, because like, again, your whole initial thing was going to meet people in person and interview them, so that was obviously scuppered. And rather than feeling sorry for yourself, you pivoted onto Zoom, and in a way it actually created a bigger opportunity for you because it gave you access to people that you mightn't have had access to before, so again, there's a good lesson in that.
Yeah, but and then it opened up other doors. I remember we got Liam Brady on, and we were doing like a documentary type thing, and Mick had literally just been let go by the FAI, and Stephen came in, and we got Mick on, and he was like chatting away to whatever. I said, actually,
at that moment in time where he just finished up, like,
I think he was done. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
so he came on, but he liked me because when I used to come out and talk to him or whatever things, and I'd always say to him, like, I'm not looking for a headline off you, Mick. Like, I'm genuine, just want to talk to you, and excited for the game and stuff like that. But still, like, even to this day, like, I'd still sometimes text Mick. Sometimes I'll send him a happy Christmas message or something like that, or I'll send him a message if he gets a new job, just saying good luck. Now, if he gets sacked or whatever, tend not to bother him, because you don't know what way that'll be taken. So, but I'm just very grateful for him as a man, because again, that's someone who I grew up idolising, because he took Ireland to the first World Cup of my memory. When I became a fan, my first game was 1998. We beat Croatia. I think Dennis Irwin scored a penalty, and that was my first ever.
That was the first game of a qualifying campaign, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah. So I was hooked after that. Well, I was hooked after the 98 World Cup.
Yeah.
So that's why I got into football. But Mick was the manager kind of coming in after that. So for me, he'll always be someone who I looked up to and stuff like that, and I'll always respect.
Yeah.
So to kind of keep good terms with him.
To have a relationship with someone that was a hero of yours as a child is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because he can be spiky with like the media and stuff like that. And it was, around then, obviously, Ireland they haven't been doing too well for a long time. Like, let's be honest. But he was always very good with his time, and he always kind of knew. I remember we actually got asked over by the London Supporters Club to do an interview with Mick.
The London Irish Supporters Club, is it?
Yes, Martin Prendergast runs it. He'll go mad at me now for forgetting the name of it, but
sorry, Martin.
There's a Republic of Ireland London supporters group, and they're near Luton. The Clad Ring was the place, so at least I got that bit right. But He brought Mick along. So my job was to interview Mick at this thing.
In front of a crowd, yeah?
Not in front of a crowd, but in front of it was in a little kind of hallway because we kind of wanted to do it kind of in private, but it wasn't in private. But again, audio issues. I was coming home on the flight and the audio that I had on the mic, I stupidly somehow, because I would sync up the audio on my phone to an audio on a camera, and stupidly I managed to delete the audio when I was deleting memory off my phone to try and and I deleted the audio, and I was like, I'm so sorry to the lads because they flew me over.
Yeah.
I'd even got tickets for Arsenal and Watford, and I had two mates with me, and I felt so bad. Now I managed to just put subtitles over it, and we had the video, but I felt so bad because and I just remember Mick slagging me the whole time for wearing white jeans.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to do with the audio because he wouldn't have known about it.
That's a bit of a fashion statement, to be fair, white jeans.
It was all the rage back then. But he was just really, really nice, and he came up to me at the end of the night or whatever, pat me on the back, and I just said, I'm heading off, I'll see you later, enjoy your Guinness. And I was like, that's a touch of class, there. So so I learned from those mistakes of audio not working and stuff like that. So I think you definitely learn more from your mistakes and stuff like that as well. I think I've made mistakes in terms of business as well, because I used to have I used to have lads in who'd be helping or whatever. And I think I used to get frustrated at how much that they didn't care as much as I did, not realizing that they're not getting paid for it. And they were doing whatever suited them, and that's fine. But I didn't see it that way at the time. But again, it's about learning and kind of knowing your kind of way and stuff like that.
I think every business person is guilty of that at some stage, because again, this is pure passion on you. You've created this, you've built this. You're never going to get that same level of buy-in from someone who's, coming in, especially if you're not even getting a wage, as you said, But again, you want the best for what you're doing, so you can understand where that clash can happen sometimes. It's perfectly natural. So you just mentioned there about when we go back over that, that's grown a hell of a lot in the space of a couple of years there. You're literally interviewing all the main players within the Irish international squad, the manager, you've gone pretty much to the top people within the organisation that you're trying to cover, which is the Irish soccer team, essentially. How does this then start to grow as a business side of things then? How, again, are you getting sponsorship coming in to help you fund this? Are you not getting paid and you're trying to work it behind the scenes to keep this all going? Because it sounds like a hell of a lot of work for what you're doing to keep this going.
Yeah, well, I would get minimal sponsorships maybe once a year, and that would only cover for a small fraction of a couple of months or whatever, and it was never really a big fee until probably most recently. But back then, I was kind of, I was smart about kind of how I operated and how I used to get into place. I did an interview with Rio Ferdinand because I got him through an agent, and he was doing something up in Belfast, and he goes, "Sorry, look, can you come up and promote this event? Rio Ferdinand's been there." And I was like, "Well, I'll come up, but can I get even 2 minutes with Rio?"
Yeah.
So I went up. It wasn't the easiest to get Rio. His PR guy wasn't the friendliest. And someone had cut across me as I had the whole thing set up, and I was waiting for Rio to come in, and these people just completely cut across me, grabbed him, sat him down in the spot that I had ready and arranged with a camera, everything ready to go, and took him, and they spent 15 minutes, and that would have been my 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was pleading with the PR guy the whole time this was going on, saying, can I get something? And I'm like, I'm after coming all the way up from Dublin to promote this event for you guys.
Yeah.
I said, what's 2 minutes to you, really? So eventually he gave me the 2 minutes. I remember being so flustered, and it just wasn't.
What did you ask him?
I just was asking about Roy Keane and Robbie Keane. I had to keep it some sort of Irish angle,
you have to find a connection.
And maybe John O'Shea as well. And then there was a half an hour clip where he was talking about Ferguson and stuff like that. So I recorded that whole stuff as well, but it wasn't really relevant to what I was doing. But either way, I got that. And then I remember Ireland were playing Switzerland, and Mick was in charge there. And I was coming back from the press conference, and someone mentioned that Gary Neville was going to be in the Marker Hotel with Cadbury's and the Premier League trophy and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, how do I go about maybe trying to get into that? So the lad gave me the email. So I emailed this PR company, and they were like, yeah, come along. So the next day, I remember my friend was over.
What does the email look like? Are you approaching them saying, look, I have this page, I have this following?
Well, I'm in the media at this stage,
Yeah.
and I'm in the media accreditation,
Okay.
so I have I'm seen as kind of professional.
Okay.
So I'm not just some raving lunatic running around
on your phone.
yeah. So I think I would always kind of, hi, how's it going? Nice and friendly, and here's a couple of links to
what I do.
I might have linked the Rio one. I think that happened before then. I think so. I did that, and then they were like, yeah, come along, blah blah blah. I remember my friend actually came over from Canada, and it was so weird because he didn't message me till the Sunday saying he was coming over, and he was like, oh, by the way, I'm coming to Dublin, and I was like, why didn't you tell me this a couple of months ago? I said, I'm a very busy week. Ireland are playing Switzerland, and I'm going to be flat out. So anyway, he came. We had the best week ever. He was in the Switzerland end, or the Ireland end. Remember when David McGoldrick scored the header against Switzerland, the equaliser? A clean hit off someone's back, and McGoldrick. Yeah.
Was a loop and cross for the header.
Yeah. And he scored the header, and my friend was actually in the singing section, and he's not a real soccer fan, as you would say. But that week as well, so we were out the night before, and we had the Neville he came with me in Mecca, and he didn't even know who he was.
Did you get to interview Gary Neville?
Yeah, I got about 10 minutes.
Was it a Roy Keane, Robbie Keane thing, or we have
a bit of that? But he just kind of went into he was talking about the Premier League managers like Klopp and Pochettino and all the difference and why the Premier League is the way it is, because it was a Premier League event.
Yeah.
And that really kind of snowballed things then as well after that point. And I remember then Troy Parrott was coming up at the under-21 scene, and Aaron Connolly, and we played a game against Armenia, and I got a couple of chats with them at the under-21s media thing after the game. And it was literally a couple of weeks before Connolly kind of became big. So this is kind of all before the COVID stuff. And actually the week of COVID, I was actually over doing something with Obafemi in London. So I got brought over with my friend, who actually has become one of my best friends now. He was working with his agent. So we went over, I was playing a PlayStation game with Obafemi, we were doing an interview with him, and that was when he was kind of coming on as a late sub and scoring goals. So I was getting all these players and stuff like that, and I was like, it was brilliant. Like I was loving it. And then kind of COVID hit. So again, you're kind of thinking going, oh, well, what can we do here? And I remember just getting down on that. Led to a few more of them. But again, I was just kind of, I was always kind of on my phone, and I was always kind of ready for the next thing. So kind of from a business point of view, I know you're kind of saying I wasn't making money or anything like that. Like I wasn't, like I was doing all this.
You were building a brand though, and you were building a following, and all these interviews, the clips you had were going up on your Instagram page. Yeah. People were following that. You obviously have a YouTube account as well. So that's where the following comes. And then that gives you then, I suppose you're building a network there as well, which is huge, and that leads to the next person, So there's a lot of momentum building in terms of the brand, in terms of the access you're getting. But yeah, I suppose that was the question. Like, this is all still, while it's cool, you're getting nice feedback and well done, Paul, this is class, this is really interesting. It's not really in a quote unquote a real job just yet, is it?
I actually left. So I was working in Sky, and I was working in Harvey Norman before I quit them jobs. I couldn't. I just hated the jobs. Yeah. I remember getting laughed out of the jobs, saying that I'm leaving and I'm making a go of this, and I was completely laughed out of the place, both places. Yeah. Now I'd only started when I was in Sky. I'd only started, but I remember
can you even think back to how you felt when that was coming? Was it the same attitude as before? I'm going to show these, or?
Yeah, well, it was kind of all because again, those comments kind of came in around the start of that, and I remember leaving, and the guy who was my team leader at the time, just harassing me the whole time, and I was just like, I can't deal with this. I was having nightmares about going in the next day and stuff like that, just because if someone didn't take an offer off Sky or whatever, I was the bad guy,
Okay,
He was working in retention, so I hated that. But I loved the atmosphere. I loved kind of being around those types of people. I was all young, my age, it was a good social scene and everything like that. And I think if I had a different team leader, I probably would have stayed on. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. Then similar situation in Harvey Norman. I'm not a sales guy. I'd be a team player. I always have been. So that's very much for someone who's mad into sales and stuff like that. Like you're greedy.
How far, when you decide to leave these jobs, how far
That
along
was
were you?
2018.
So you hadn't, like, what was the following like on the Instagram page, for example, when you,
it was all right. It wasn't.
like, just for perspective, you're sitting roughly around 40,000 followers now, which is massive.
Yeah,
compared to the
but that's just
average
Instagram.
page.
Like the whole, I think across the whole lot, I added them up yesterday. It was about 116,000 across the audience.
It's class. Yeah.
If you add it all up,
Yeah.
TikTok, YouTube, and so on. But at the time, it wasn't huge, but I knew I was onto something. Like I believed in myself and I believed in what I was doing. And a big part of that was my mum. She didn't go to me, oh, you have to get out and get a job. She believed in what I was doing. So that kind of was allowing me to kind of not worry about kind of rent and stuff like that. So as much now, I did pay my rent and stuff like that, but I remember I was on social welfare. Then I had to leave that, and I was going out doing delivery driving just to pay bills, like my phone bill, and give my mum some rent and stuff like that. It wasn't like at the time. Yeah, I'm interviewing Gary Neville, but then later on that day I'm going out and I'm doing delivery driving around the area and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? And people are going, oh, you're your man, and you start kind of getting recognised and stuff like that. And again, I didn't really know how to take that.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, oh, thanks, awkward. I just didn't know how to kind of take it. And I think kind of COVID was kind of fading out a bit, and I then started getting work in TV. So I was working with DIY SOS, and I got that through Irish Football Fan TV.
Okay.
So a friend of mine, Will Dalton, he works for Virgin Media. His sister got on to me, and she was like, "Oh, I think you'd be brilliant for this." And I was like, "Yeah, let's look at it." So I went in, had an interview, and I remember being with my nan and my auntie, and I was actually driving at this stage. I had enough money to get a car and stuff like that.
But that was RTE took you on, was it? Or was
it
that
wasn't.
the
No, it was
company that-
Motive Television, but
So-
they basically give the rights to.
How many years are we talking from the shaky hand man with the iPhone trying to interview Mick McCarthy to
4?
working in TV as a media in the media side?
I think 4. I would have started last March, and I would have finished up around now.
Yeah.
Not finished up. Sorry, I would have been in my last episode this time last year, coming into the last episode last year. So it would have been March 2022. So about 4 years.
Yeah, so that's obviously something that wasn't probably nowhere near your radar when you first started this. That was going to come along, but again, it just shows you as your reputation and your brand grows, the other opportunities that can come your way.
Well, I was meeting people as well. Sorry, I was doing a little bit in Virgin Media as well. So I was in there doing production assistant and getting the teas and the coffees for like Brian Kerr and Richard Dunn and so on. I still occasionally do that as well. But then, yeah, as I say, I then got in here with DIY SOS, and then I was working with Baz and the crew there. So
it looks. I've just watched the show. I've no idea what it's like behind the scenes, but it looks a phenomenal show. Like the amount of people that come together for working for such a good cause. Like it looks an amazing experience, and the buzz across the place just looks unreal.
That's not fabricated. Like the buzz and the people. The people are amazing.
Yeah.
Like they just do that for the good of their health. Like not for the good of their health. They're just nice people. I still have so many friends within that. Well, we did it all over, but there's so many of them that go to all the same ones, you know. And they travel and they get hotels and they stay there for the 12 days or 10, 12 days, whatever it is. And they all help out. And they're just amazing people. Like some of them would be friends with me for life now.
I imagine it's a hard thing as a cameraman or like to capture it all because there's so much going on. Like it's essentially a building site and there's hundreds of people walking across.
We had a mad
as well.
director, but I was like, she would have me running around like a lunatic, asking everyone to be quiet and all, like, and all the people would be giving me stick and stuff like that. But it was great. I loved it because I was interacting with everybody, and that's when I'm at my best because I'm having the crack with everybody and everything. And the best thing is everyone's going around with their name on their hat. Yeah. So if you're saying, Andrew, I know who you are before you've even been introduced. Yeah. So you're going around, you can just have the crack with people straight away, and everyone who's kind of worked on it and stuff like that has really enjoyed it. And Baz was learning from him kind of how I remember I spoke about being kind of awkward about people coming up to me, and I kind of seen how he handled people. Yeah. Now I'm not saying I'm ever at his level or ever will be, but just kind of seeing how he interacted with people, because he'd have albums like stalking him up the road, and I'd have to be almost like security, being like, okay, he has to go now. But that was, yeah. So it was cool to kind of get an insight into that life, and then I worked with Pedro. I know you had here as well. On home rescue, I did a little bit of first dates as well. So I was getting all this experience in production and stuff like that, and that definitely kind of helped me spread my wings a bit more into different little bits. I was updating my equipment so everything was looking sharp, sounding sharp.
But that's all off your own back. Like, so you're getting the gigs, but the money you're getting from there, a lot of it has to go reinvested into the next camera or the next piece of microphone. Because again, these things, to get the high quality ones, they're not cheap.
Well, that's what was happening with the sponsorships. So any sort of sponsorships I was just literally just getting a new camera.
Yeah.
So I wasn't spending it on myself.
You're
Like I haven't been on a holiday.
Right.
I haven't been on a holiday in 6 years because I haven't been able to afford it. Like I've been back and forth maybe to Liverpool or I go to an away trip. I think the closest thing that I had to a holiday was recently the France game against away there recently.
But it's technically work, I suppose. Like
it was work,
class, but an amazing experience.
But I was actually able to kind of chill out because it wasn't hectic work, and I could kind of do what I wanted on that one. So it was great. It was like 4 days in the sun. I got an Airbnb, and the fella I was staying with was brilliant, and he would go for pints of Guinness with me in the evening as well. So it was kind of made a mate, even though I didn't really know him, but it was cool. But that's kind of like, people don't see that side of things, and they're just kind of going, oh, I used to get a lot of stick for not going to away games of Irish fans. Oh, he's not a real fan. He doesn't go to away games. That was the big thing that everybody was saying to me. And I was just like, how do you expect me to go on away games? You don't know anything about me. You just see me getting content with players and people like that. But I'm not making any money here. Yeah. You know, I'm living off scraps. And as well as that, like it wasn't easy. Like there was girls wanted me to go on dates with them, and I couldn't afford to bring them on dates. And then I'm trying to but you can't say, oh, I can't afford to bring you on a date. So like I was like, do you want to go for the coffee?
Yeah. And
then they're like, no, I want to go for dinner. And I was just like, oh, all right, oh well, I can't.
McDonald's down the road.
Yeah. So I was kind of like passing a lot of that stuff off.
Yeah, and then also this is in like your kind of prime in your mid to late 20s here, isn't it? Like when probably all your mates are doing those things, they're off working jobs, making money, buying cars, putting deposit down in houses. Yeah, all that sort of stuff's going on in Europe. So like at any stage, did you question at any stage? Were you ever at a stage where you were gonna maybe jack it in and just get a real job, or was it always a genuine thing? You had the belief there to keep this going.
I'd be telling a lie if I didn't feel like I was like, why am I doing this when I'm so far into it? I'm not, you know, I'm reaching out to sponsors and I'm not getting a whole lot back, and no one's kind of really believing in me and stuff like that. There was definitely a period of that just after COVID. But you know, actually what happened was working with DIY SOS was probably the best thing that happened, because I was around creative people who, when I'm around my mates and stuff like that, they don't care what I do. Like people go get a real job, and they were saying to me, not all of them, but a fair amount of them. But then I remember I was driving Baz. We were in Cork and we were driving around or something, and he was just asking me about it, and he was like, "Oh, how's that going for you? It looks brilliant. Like what you do, I love it." And for someone like him to say that, like he can make you feel like you could be having the worst day ever, and he can make you feel 10 feet tall within a space of a 10-minute chat. Like he's just a brilliant person like that. And I just remember kind of a lot of the lads at the time, they were all just really supportive of what I did. And I remember just kind of going, wow, you know, actually, you know, and I was almost embarrassed when I first met them to kind of tell them what I did. I was almost kind of, I have this, I was kind of shy about it. That was only a year and a half ago. And then, I remember they were like, oh, that's brilliant what you do or whatever. And then they were like, you know, shoot. And then they were going around telling people what I do and stuff like that. And then I kind of became a bit more kind of, yeah, it is what I do, and a bit more proud of it and stuff like that. And it kind of gave me a bit more lease of life. And then I was getting, the more time was going on, the more interviews I was getting and stuff like that. And then just, I think it's kind of who you surround yourself with as well.
Definitely, it's huge.
Yeah. So my circle kind of changed in that sense, because I was with them all the time. I was on the road, and I remember going to a wedding with Baz, and I remember him saying to me, he goes, you know, I think what you're doing there is brilliant, and I think it's going to be very lucrative for you one day and stuff like that. So again, you're kind of looking at someone who's been there, he's done it. He's made mistakes along the way, as we all have, but he's there telling you like that he's a big fan of it and stuff like that. Because I don't really have any interest in Irish football, but I like watching your stuff. And I've actually had a lot of people say that about me, that kind of just people online and people not close friends, but kind of just friends from a distance, and they would say, it's like, I don't really watch football, but I enjoy your interviews and stuff like that. So
Why do you think that is? What do you think they like that they get from you that they don't necessarily get from just watching the usual TV
I have
stuff?
no idea, to be honest.
Yeah.
I have no idea, to be honest with you. I just thought it was a very nice thing for them to say.
It is lovely, absolutely.
Yeah, considering what was it? That was the worst thing that people watched in some people's eyes. So you're going from one to the other. But what I've kind of found in that as well is to try and, if someone says that you're really good, try not to kind of believe your own hype. I think I did that for a little bit. And then if people say you're shit, don't fall into that. Trying to say somewhere in the middle there.
Exactly.
And it's hard to find that happy medium.
I think that comes with experience, though.
Yeah. But I also avoid. Like, I avoid stuff online. Like, I wouldn't read like forums on, because I know it's just and Reddit and stuff like that. It's just all these negative people who hide behind.
A lot of them are
private
cesspits.
accounts.
Yeah.
No, but it's just like they don't have.
There's no face on them.
Yeah, or their names or anything like that. You know, they all want an opinion, but they're not ballsy enough to go out there and actually give their opinion publicly.
Yeah.
So they like to put down people who try to. And I don't go around like doing clickbait or anything like that. Like, I've just gone out there trying to promote Irish football and grow a brand at the same time. That's all I've been trying to do.
But I think you're growing a brand through giving value. You know what I mean? Like, you're getting these little interviews with people, like really, really people that as a football fan, I would have an interest in hearing from. And again, the angle you're coming from, I said, it's not the typical standard, boring media stuff that media stuff have to do. You're coming from the fan perspective and you're asking questions that I would probably ask if I was in that situation. I think that's where a lot of people relate to it and get value from it. So again, there's one thing growing a brand by, there's different ways to do it, but I think the best way you can do it is by just going out there, giving massive value to people and not really expecting anything in return. And that's essentially what you've done. And that was kind of the key to get you on today to kind of talk about this and go through this. And it's not fucking easy.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, again, you're doing that. You've got people trying to pull you down, as you're saying, the whole way through it, even though those people haven't paid you a cent. You know, you don't owe them anything at all, but yet they're voicing their opinion. And as you said, the joys of social media, I get it myself. People who don't even have the confidence to have their own profile picture on their page, and yet they're full of this opinion, that opinion, pulling you down on that. Like, I'd get a lot of comments on, like, if I'm doing fitness stuff or whatever, and you'd get, like, I get judged straight away on my appearance and my body shape because I'm a personal trainer and stuff like that. And again, because you're giving fitness advice, that's free reign. People have to have a go at you at that. And at the start, that can shake you and upset you a bit. But then you realize, okay, look, this, if I want to grow and do what I want to do here, I'm just going to have to absorb that. And you're a great example. What you're doing is that you're not letting the haters pull you down. Like I said, you're just using it for fuel. It's not your goal to prove them wrong. It's not the ultimate goal. Your goal is to grow this brand because you believe in it, and you're just using that for fuel, which I think is massive. And I think there's a lot of people who are probably, maybe they're doing a side hustle. I think they're doing a side hustle, not necessarily going into stuff full time. I said, you mentioned there, you're quite privileged in the sense you were a bit younger. I was the same when I started my business. I was living at home. So if it failed, it wasn't the same as now. I'm married with 2 kids and have a mortgage. So I don't know whether I'd have the same confidence now as I did then. Maybe you have to be a bit more. Peter actually had a great quote about it in our last podcast with him, talking about starting the side hustle and learning from there and building it up. And I think anybody who's in that position, listen to this now, there's a lot of lessons there that you're mentioning. You know, I said, it's people will doubt you and people will still have a go at you, even as you're doing well and growing and you're interviewing the likes of Rio Ferdinand and Gary Neville, all these people. There's still people trying to bring you down, and sometimes that maybe makes the haters hate you even more because you're having success now. You know.
Yeah, well, I think there's as well, like people just, they pick out the weirdest things to criticize you about. Like today, obviously we're here. You have someone in the background there producing this and stuff. When I go to an interview or whatever, I'm setting up a camera and I'm setting up a separate microphone. And I have to make sure that's recording. I have to make sure the camera's recording, and I have to do the interview at the same time.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on there.
There's 4 things going on, and you're trying to do an interview. And if you look at the camera just to make sure that it's
you're concentrating on different things. You can't just go. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, people are going, "Oh, your interviews are terrible." This, that. It's like, hang on. Well, I've got about 4 different things going on. If I had a cameraman there, and if I was to sit behind the camera with a little notepad, like most journalists do, I said it's actually very easy to do that. What they're doing, what I'm doing is completely different. I'm a cameraman, a presenter, an interviewer, and a sound man all at the same time. That's, you know, so people say, give me, like, and I'm at the press conference or I'm at other things, and I actually see other people from RTE come up and asking me, like, oh, how did you do this and how did you do that and stuff like that. And so I'm like kind of going, right, well, maybe I am actually starting to get a bit of a step here because
Yeah.
I get things done and I get them done quick, and I'm usually the first one to have it out there.
Yeah.
Because I've learned little tricks of it, right? And that kind of comes from, again, the lads in Toffee TV. And funny, I was actually over with them recently and I was giving them advice on
There
some
you go.
stuff
Full
recently.
circle,
So
yeah.
it's just funny like that.
Yeah.
Like just how to add captions and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Because I have a young lad who started in there and he kind of helped me out with some stuff. There's a software I use called OBS sometimes if I'm doing like Zoom calls and stuff like that. And he showed me how to use it and stuff like that. So I was able to give back to him then the last time I was over, I think it was in May or March. And I was able to show him, I think it was May. And I was able to kind of show him a few bits and so, and now they're booming
Brilliant.
again.
It's great you can all grow together as
Yeah.
well, helping each other out, which is brilliant. And I'm sure there's a lot of crossover in terms of fans and followers. Like there's a
Well,
lot
there
of-
is, and they actually do one. So the Redmen TV is a Liverpool fan, and they are in the same building, and they've actually helped me as well, and I've
Brilliant,
done some
yeah.
work with them as well. So I'm quite lucky. Like a lot of them do be on the overlap.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they'd be
cool.
on
Yeah.
the-
Yeah. In the
So,
fan debates.
Yeah. So Paul would do the Liverpool, and then Baz would do Toffee TV and stuff like that. So I kind of got to know a good few of them through that as well, and again, all very helpful.
And I'd imagine a lot of the work, like obviously you have to go to people and you've interviewed them, there's a lot of time and effort getting there, setting up and doing all that. But then there's a huge amount of editing behind the scenes as well that like you don't get any credit for, and that's probably where the bulk of the work is. Is that the case?
Yeah, and again, it's a one-man army. You know, I did have a guy, Gary Spain, shout out Gary, who used to do a lot of the stuff as well at games, and I had a few volunteers, and we were starting to get volunteers going to games, so they'd cover games of the League of Ireland. A lot of them were kind of getting experience because they want to be journalists.
Yeah.
So I'd give them the access on a Friday night to go to a League of Ireland game. They do a couple of stories, a few bits on Twitter, and then they would. I had to show them basically how to edit. Now it's handy enough to do it after a match. It's only a couple of minute interview, and I showed how to edit on the phone and stuff like that. So it was quick and easy and up pretty quick.
For perspective, so just to kind of use the Rio Ferdinand in Belfast as an example, like you got a 2-minute clip there that obviously would have performed really well on social media and a great thing to have associated with your brand and your page. But like when you break it down, how much work was involved for that 2-minute clip? Like you're traveling to Belfast, you're staying up there, you're setting up the camera. You said you were fighting for your 2 minutes the whole time you were there. Yeah. You get the clip, you come back to Dublin, you're then editing the clip, like all in your, you know what I mean? Like it's a good probably 24 hours work, and that's pure work to try and get all that done, for a 2-minute clip of, because everyone would love to meet Rio Ferdinand and have a chat with him or whatever, but I don't think many people are willing to go to that level just for that, do you think? Yeah,
but again, I was living in that, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
And even just to get a picture or to have Rio Ferdinand sitting there smiling, talking to me is a win for me in a sense. A small win, but it's a win.
No, it's huge. To have, like, again, this is what you've set out to do, is to meet these people and speak to these people and give your followers access to these people, which is huge, And like, is there any other, like, people, we've mentioned a few big names there. Is there anyone else that's kind of stood out for you? Any highlights you've had?
Redknapp recently. Harry,
yeah.
Yeah, so Redknapp.
He seems like a proper character, all right. What was that like? He was in Port Marnock, wasn't he, doing the Q&A?
No, well, sorry, he was, yeah. So
was that when you met him, or was it a different time?
I met him that night. Audio issues. And
I thought you'd learned your lessons.
I thought so. My mic was on, his mic wasn't. Right. It would have been fine if my mic wasn't on. We were out there or whatever, and I had these wireless mics, and for some reason it wasn't picking up on the camera, but it told me on the camera it was.
Okay.
So it's hard to kind of, and I didn't have a cameraman with me. I had a guy with me, but he didn't know how to use anything, and he was just coming along to meet Redknapp. So we went in and we were working with the guys who were running the event or whatever, and we just said, again, like the Darren Randolph thing, can we get a couple of bits and we'll help promote it for you, So we did that, and we got 10, 15 minutes with Harry just beforehand. And he was just a legend. He was very sound. And yeah, he couldn't have been any more nice. And I went back and I said, that looks class. The background, everything looked deadly. I brought down the lights and I had everything perfect. And then, I went back and listened to it. And I remember going, I don't think I can really hear him that well. And this was just before he was going out onto stage. And I was like, I don't think he's not going to let me do it again. And then I went back and I listened to it that night. And I was like,
sick there,
going mad. Al Foran, the comedian?
Yeah.
So he was out playing golf with him that day, and I just said to him, Al, I totally understand if you say no.
Day after.
Yeah. So I had actually a match that day. And I remember, and I said to him, look, I know if you're going to say no, no problem. But the audio was a disaster on that podcast. Can I go back out, ask the same questions? It'd be no different, and I'll come to you wherever you are. And he goes, let me find out. So I remember waiting all day. I didn't hear back from him. I went and played my match. I said, it doesn't matter. I actually played unbelievable that day. I don't know why. I've been injured quite a lot. And I played that day. I was just like full of confidence. And then I got injured in the second half, came off the pitch, and then I was on my phone and I was like, nothing back from Al yet. So I was like, oh, okay, that's not going to happen. He rings me at like 2 minutes later as I'm on one leg at this stage, like hobbling. He's like, if you can get out to Portmarnock in half an hour, the golf club, we can get something. So I went back, got my car.
Showered.
Showered. So I was in the shower, and then I rang him, so shower on, and it's like, I'm in the shower, I'll be there. And then I got there anyway, and I remember being on the M50, and my dog got out on the road. My mate rang me and said, your dog's out on the road. And I'm like, oh no. So I'm on my way, I'm on the motorway at the airport almost, going towards Portmarnock. And he goes, yeah, but the dog is out. He's trying to catch the cat up the tree. And I was like, oh, look, whatever. Can you just please sort it? Yeah, I can't do anything about it right now. And I got out there and I got everything set up. And I made sure that nothing was going wrong. And I got a brilliant interview with Harry Redknapp.
What a chance to let you do it again. Like,
absolutely. Yeah. And he was just cool about it. Like, there was no issues. Like, and he's famous. So he doesn't need to do anything.
Exactly, yeah.
And twice as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was dead cool. And the clips off that went completely viral. Like, there was 2 or 3 of them that went completely viral. And and I started getting taken a bit more seriously then again. So again, I have the portfolio there of those 3 names alone will kind of get you in different places.
You go to approach someone else, you have to drop those clips and mention those people.
Yeah, and then I was doing some stuff recently, and I had a funny clip there with Eddie Hearn on my own personal thing, because my mate was asking me to do. He set up a boxing YouTube channel similar to Irish off the back of kind of the success of IFF TV, and he was like, "Oh, do you fancy going to this press conference tomorrow?" And then I said, "Yeah." I go, if you want me to ask questions, will you just send me a list of what you want me to ask? Because it's just his audience. I'm just a talker, really. So I remember Eddie Hearn comes up, and the minute I start talking, he just goes, "You look like Calvin Harris." You know the way he kind of just says stuff to throw people off.
Yeah.
So I had a back and forth, funny little clip with him, and I sent that to a lot of people. It's on my Instagram. It's quite funny. And then I did an interview with Katie Taylor, and I just remember thinking, God, like, this is another person who I absolutely love. Massive, and it's great to be in front of and chatting about it. So I've been very lucky in terms of who I interviewed. I actually had Martin O'Neill on. He was promoting his book at the start of the year, and he doesn't really speak to any Irish media. So I managed to get him on, and I'm kind of friendly with him now, which is brilliant. Yeah. So, because again, I loved Martin O'Neill's Celtic days, and obviously it didn't go too well towards the back end of Ireland, but the Euros was a brilliant time.
Again, I got to go to Paris and to Bordeaux to see the games, and they're memories I'll never forget. In 2016, they're amazing.
Yeah, again, and I think that's but a lot of people kind of shut them down for the way it ended. And I've kind of been lucky. Like, I remember around the time I had Martin O'Neill, I had another podcast of my own, but I stopped doing it. And I had Paulie Malignaggi on and stuff like that. So I was getting a lot of people that weren't just football. And obviously then through the DIY SOS, I was meeting other people outside of just football and stuff like that. So I was doing different bits. I did Dear McGavin on a podcast as well. And I was just kind of interviewing different people. So it was cool just to kind of get that experience. And now I'm not really as overawed when I meet a famous person.
Brilliant. It just showed, like, this is all in the space of, what, we're 5 years into the
6. Okay. Yeah, because it started this year.
Okay, cool. So just to kind of bring it back to where we're at now. So you're at a point now where you mentioned there earlier in the podcast that something big is actually brewing with the page. So you're bringing it up to, this is something that you've really done. You've built a brand, but yet, as you said, you've been kind of having a lot of jobs in the background with this. So where are we at now? Where is the page at the moment?
Well, I've had a pretty horrendous year. So when Ireland played France in March, that morning, my mum fell ill, and I found her, and basically, I had to bring her to. I found her in the bathroom, and then I had to kind of get her back unconscious. She'd fallen, she had a brain aneurysm, and then I had to get the ambulance, and then everything like that, and she was in a coma for 3 weeks from that point. And she died then on the 20th of April. So I was 3 weeks in and out of Beaumont, praying, hoping that
Sorry to hear that, buddy.
that she would survive. But as time went on, we never got any good news in the end, which we were praying like literally for 3 weeks. So off the back of that, then I was just like, I need to take a break from the channel.
Yeah.
And I remember putting it out there saying I'm taking a break or whatever. And then a month later, Harry happened. So I couldn't not do that.
Yeah, it was too good an
So
opportunity.
kind of almost threw me back into it, you know. And I know my mum, I remember telling her that I was getting Harry Redknapp. And I remember actually the day before she fell, because we were playing France that day. It was the first game I missed in 6 years of covering the channel, a home game. And
Take your time.
So France, were in town, and Mbappe was doing the press conference in the Aviva, so I got to go to that and stuff. And I remember not really wanting to go to it because my football team basically that night on the Saturday had taken me out. I didn't want to go out. Like, I just went up to say hello to them or whatever. And before I knew it, like, I remember I drove up to the pub so I wouldn't drink. As soon as I sat down, point. And before the night, we were out till 4 or 5 in the morning. And then I remember waking up the next day on the Sunday, and then it was coming towards 3 or 4 o'clock. And I think the press conference was at 5. I said, you know what, I'm going to go and do it. I think it's a good chance to get Mbappe on Irish Football Fan TV. Is brilliant.
Amazing, yeah.
So I got the press conference. Audio issue again, would you believe? It was these mics. I've sorted them out since. But anyway,
I won't ask you to name the type of mics because they're not getting a great
wireless. No, well, I don't know what. I reset the settings on my camera and everything was fine since. But I remember he was sitting there with the press officer for the French national team, and he was sitting there and he was asking, and he answered some questions about Evan Ferguson, and that again did like 2 million views on TikTok and stuff, and things were just booming. And I remember just being really happy, and Virgin would often kind of use our content on there, and obviously I was working there occasionally as well. But so I remember being in the training and I was getting videos inside the Aviva of Mbappe, Griezmann, and all the French players who were literally in the World Cup final.
Yeah, it's amazing access to see them up close.
And I remember I came home and I was telling my mum all about that, and I was showing her all. And we were, like, I remember we were just laughing and joking to ourselves, and that was it was a lovely memory for us to kind of have. It was our kind of last proper memory, because when I got her back unconscious, she didn't know who I was or anything like that. It was for my family's sake. I don't want to go into the ambulance and all that.
No, there's no need to at all, buddy. That's your business.
I remember I had a bit of kind of man flu on the Sunday. I think it might have been a hangover as well. But I remember was there tablets or something like that, like just a Panadol or something. And she was like, "Oh yeah, it's downstairs in the drawer or whatever." And I remember going up to bed early or whatever, and then she came up to bed and she goes, "Did you ever get those tablets?" And I said, "No, I couldn't find them. I just didn't look, just being lazy." And then she came up and she threw the tablets on my bed, and she was like, "Oh, there's the tablets that weren't there." And started laughing. So that's kind of our last kind of memory. But she got to see like the pretty much the whole journey up until that point. That's
really special, yeah.
Yeah, and she backed it like as well, you know. So it wasn't like, a lot of people would say to me, "Oh, you don't work and you don't do this," but she was always like believed in what I was doing, and I was very proud of. If I got interviews and stuff like that, and a couple of weeks before that, sorry to cut you off, I met Katie Taylor. I was actually at a thing with Katie Taylor, but I didn't interview her. Yeah. So I met her. I got a picture with her, and she was just so happy that I met her. She loved Katie Taylor, and she just loved seeing me meeting all these people and stuff like that, and she was just so proud.
It's amazing, yeah.
Because my dad, I don't think we said this, I think I said to you off air, but my dad died when I was 20.
Okay.
So he never got to see any of this.
Yeah.
So that was something that always kind of got to me a bit, because I always wanted him, he would have loved seeing me doing what I'm doing.
Proud, he'd be unbelievably proud.
But so then I lost both parents then when I was 32.
Yeah, that's really tough.
Yeah.
And just to bring it back, I think there's something really poignant there that for your mum following your whole journey the whole way through, I think there's something very special that the last kind of football chat you had involved you having access to probably arguably the biggest player in the world right now in Mbappe, for something that you started only a few years ago. and like you had no access to any footballers. That, like, again, her last memory of you talking about what you're doing so far is with arguably the biggest player in the game now. So that's an incredible journey from where you started to where you're at. And I said, you're only just really getting started with this, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I know I went a bit off point there, but
no, that was great. It was really good to get the insight.
So just the way life's been and stuff like that, and you know, now all the bills kind of fall under my name and stuff like that now, and I can't live like I'd been living, paycheck to paycheck, getting the odd freelance jobs here and there, sponsorships here and there. So now we're in the midst of being taken over.
It's fantastic, yeah.
And at the same time, I'll get a job out of it, and I'll be producing content and making content. I probably won't be on screen as much, but I'll be working with all, you know, different types of athletes, celebrities, maybe you want to call them, but big names. And obviously, I'll still be within Irish football and stuff like that. Amazing, I don't tend to get away from that. I don't want to. But basically, Irish Football Fan TV that name won't be around anymore, but it will live on through the new thing. I don't want to name it because
you're still in the process, so I know you can't say too much just yet.
Yeah.
But basically, a company has been following your journey the whole way through, liked what you've done, has seen the brand you've built, and have now gone and bought you out, and now you're going to be working with them, still doing a lot of the work that you're doing.
Yeah, well, one of the main points was that they're hiring me kind of for the work that I've done, and they're kind of just acquiring Irish Football Fan TV. So like, if I was to go and give it to someone else, they'd be kind of a competitor, so it wouldn't really make sense.
Yeah.
So it's kind of been a double kind of thing there. So
what a journey that is. Like, again, you're only 32. There's a lot more to
33 come now, but it was 32 at the time, so that was my April.
But there's so much more to come from you, and it just shows you, like, in the space of, we're talking that 6-year block, what you started with to where you've got to. And now, I said, what was just a hobby and people laughing at you saying you're never going to make something of this, you've literally you're in the process of being bought out, and you're going to have like a job of your absolute dreams going forward while still being able to do what you've done.
Yeah, and I suppose money coming in the door to actually, I might even be able to get a holiday now.
Well, yeah.
But
straight
like,
down to the travel agent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I suppose I've gone about it the opposite way to other people.
Yeah.
So people would generally start with money.
Yeah.
Build a following. I've built a following, and now I'm trying to get the money.
It's class,
do you know what I mean?
There's no right or wrong way though, is there?
Yeah, but like, if I was speaking to someone who wanted to follow my route, I wouldn't tell them to do it.
Yeah.
Because I know you have to have a certain sort of mindset to do it, and you also have to have the certain people back in your corner, like my mom did.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not so sure it'd have been a thing I'd been able to do, like if what had happened to her a year previous, whatever, you know.
But what I hope from our conversation today is I'd have a lot of people, given the fact it's bulletproof, that a lot of guys and ladies listen to this who are parents, and no doubt a lot of them may not fully understand social media and how it can be turned into an actual job or a business. Hopefully by listening to your story today, that might give some parents who maybe they might not go for themselves, but it might give them some understanding and perspective. So when their child maybe comes to them in the future saying they want to be, whether it's YouTube or whatever it is, that maybe they can have a little bit of patience and do what your mom did for you.
Yeah, well, I would agree, because I don't think my dad would have. Like, me and my dad, like, when I was in school, I was a messer. I was a class clown. Pretty sure I have ADHD. I was just never diagnosed with it. But
I think most people at this table have probably, like, not even just my podcast, but everybody else. I think most people, we probably all have a touch of it, and some more so.
I think creative people,
yeah. It's how you channel it. Rory Stories had a great conversation about that when we hear about that. He was diagnosed, but he said he's just channels it a different way now, and he thinks it's a superpower as opposed to a handicap. It
can be. You use energy to your benefit, as I did with the comments. I was like, fuel, right, let's use it this way. But me and my dad, like, we were only starting to kind of form a relationship, and then suddenly he just passed. And I was, as I said, I was 20. So our relationship, where he would just normally be kind of, he wanted me to do something, but I never knew what I wanted to do. Even when I came back from Canada, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then it was a hobby and a passion, and it became an obsession to make this, you know, a viable thing. And I remember everyone always said to me, how do you make money off it? How I was, well, through sponsorship. And through this and
I'll
that.
figure that out
And
as I go,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was my kind of attitude. And I was like, I don't care about what other people have to say about me or whatever. Like, they don't know anything about me. Like, they see what I do, but they don't know my private life or anything about it. They don't know what demons I'm battling. They don't know, they just don't know anything, So I said, like, I don't ask other people how much money they're making, so why should they know about mine? Whatever. Now, obviously, they'll know now, but I don't really care. Like, because I do hope that it does inspire other people that no matter what, you work hard and you work your ass off, there will be somewhat of an opportunity for you. But it also can be timing. Like, at the moment, I think if anyone listening to this now, they will go, the timing is perfect. For me to go to that next stage now, perfect timing.
But I think you've earned that, though. You've earned your luck along the way.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, is that you just keep working hard and opportunities will come, but don't ever knock an opportunity away. Like, you might think doing an interview with someone who's not big of a name is not worthwhile, but then that might open another door. They might know someone and go, oh, you should do something. Yeah, that's how a lot of things have worked for me. It's just spiral. Like, it's like, oh, maybe you should do this. And I just hate being told what to do by people. You should do this. Someone says to me, maybe you should do this. I'll listen. If someone goes, you should do this, or you should do that, I said, no, sorry.
The arms fall straight away.
What's that?
The arms fall straight away.
Yeah, but it's not like to be arrogant or anything like that. It's just, I don't tell you how to run your gym, you know what I mean? And if you had someone coming in and telling you, you'd just be like, no.
Nah, look, you have to be careful. Like, again, you're running a business. You do want to be open to feedback, but you also have to be clever where you take it from. Like, I'm sure if the guys in Toffee TV, when you were in your early days especially, said you should, your ears open up and you listen. Whereas if it's someone who's never done anything like you're doing right now and they're just giving you feedback.
Well, in a sense, yeah, but you have to be kind of aware of maybe what you're doing and what you're doing wrong. I was aware. I was like asking questions like, how could I do this better? How could I do that better? It wasn't a case of them coming to me going, you should do this, because they didn't need to.
Yeah.
They're busy enough doing their own thing.
Yeah.
So I was just like, it'd be more kind of from a production point of view. I wanted to make it look better. I didn't want it to look shitty. I'm quite a perfectionist in that sense. I always like our visuals to look really clean and good lighting and good sound.
But but again, that took learnings and it also took investment. And I said, it's easy to get sponsorship and go off and buy a trendy car, or do whatever, or go on holidays and do things like that. You put it into the business and you kept growing and growing, and it's got you to the point you're at now, which is phenomenal. Paul, look, we could keep going for ages. We've actually barely even talked about football and Irish football when you think about it. But it was a fascinating conversation, and fair play to you. I genuinely think you're a true inspiration for anybody who is working on a side hustle, has a passion, they know what they like, but they just don't know how to maybe turn it into a career just yet. I think they'll take a lot of inspiration from today.
Well, I hope so. And thanks very much. I've really enjoyed it. So it's probably the first podcast I've done in a long time, to be honest.
Good man.
But thanks very much.